Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on this virtual book launch for The Fall of the House of Byron. I am keenly aware that I've been bombarding you for the last few weeks with snippets of information about this family who died 200 years ago. I know it's quite niche, hopefully some of you have enjoyed it. For that I can only apologise. As you can imagine, things at the moment, it's a bit tricky for authors who've got new books coming out, also for publishers and indie booksellers as well. So please forgive us if it seems a bit me at the moment. We're just trying to make the best of things. For so many of us, the publication of a book comes at the end of years of hard work and self-isolation, just held aloft by positive thinking and probably sometimes about a tenner. I, for one, am just not quite willing to let the book sink into oblivion without a bit of a fight, even if that fight is just me sat in my office drinking. I hope you're all keeping very safe and well, and that I can distract you with some 18th century nonsense, drama, perhaps a bit of debauchery. Oh, hey, I opened it. First things first, once the video's over, if you want to head over to Twitter, I'll be doing an author Q&A if anyone wants to speak to me. If you've got any burning questions for me, or if you're just bored and nosy, use the hashtag House of Byron and I should see them. Also, I would like to do a giveaway of 3 copies of the book, personalised and signed for you, for anyone who wants to send in their very best 18th century selfie by 9 p.m. So you could recreate your favourite 18th century portrait or a tribute to Byron himself. There's some pretty good artwork of him that you could have a go at. Or if, like me, you just want to give yourself a massive Georgian hairdo, it's actually quite liberating. I think that we should all emerge from this lockdown looking and wearing exactly whatever we want, and I choose this. So yes, use the hashtag House of Byron. I'll announce the 3 winners for the signed books just after 9 p.m. Okay, I suppose I should do something about the book so that you know what it is I'm even talking about. So I just wanted to do a quick reading of a couple of pages at the beginning of chapter 3, and this is introducing us to Midshipman John Byron, who is later known as Foul-Weather Jack, and later than that, posthumously actually, becomes the grandfather of the poet. So John joins the Navy at 14, and it's on his second major voyage at the age of 17 that one of the most harrowing adventures of the 18th century begins. I promise this won't go on for very long. 1741. 17-year-old midshipman John Byron is thousands of miles from home. He's spent 8 arduous months at sea, and his heart thumps in his chest as he surveys the chaos now whirling around him. His ship, at the mercy of a fierce storm, has just suffered a violent blow. Were they struck by rocks or pitched over by a great rolling wave? He squints into the darkness and the answer comes. They strike a second time and the ship skews wildly to almost 90 degrees against the swell of the sea. Men spill out onto the quarterdeck from below, and the breaking dawn reveals rocks jutting up menacingly on all sides. John fights to keep his balance, while those trapped in their hammocks below, crippled by scurvy, fever or injury, slowly drown as water surges into the bowels of the ship. The captain, confined to the surgeon's cabin by a wounded shoulder and a considerable dose of opiates, is tossed painfully against the wooden wall. As another battering wave helps the ship to right itself, John is dismayed to see its useless wheel spinning uncontrollably. The men around him, feeling destruction at their very throats, prepare for death with varying degrees of dignity. Here, a man falls to his knees and prays. There, others are thrown across the deck like dolls or, John thinks, like inanimate logs. Those preferring to face the end unencumbered by sobriety dash below to raid the liquor rations. A tortured cry cuts through the general clamour. "I'm the king of the country!" And John turns to see a raving sailor waving a cutlass above his head, skewering anyone who dares to come near. In the midst of madness, a lone voice rallies the men. "My friends, let us not be discouraged." It's the ship's mate, Jones. "Come, lend a hand." They haul to. As the rising sun casts a glow over the ocean, land is sighted. With renewed hope, the pain in their frozen fingers and soaked skins is forgotten. As John later recalls, "We now thought of nothing but saving our lives." 70 years later, John's grandson George, 6th Lord Byron, is casting the hero of his new epic poem onto a stormy sea. He has no need to rely on invention. Proudly drawing from John's experiences, he writes that strange sounds of wailing, blasphemy, devotion clamoured in chorus to the roaring ocean. Don Juan has suffered more than anyone on earth, he insists, and presses the point with the declaration that his hardships were comparative to those related in my granddad's narrative. In 1816, the remarkable survival story of Midshipman Byron of the Wager is known across the world, rivaling the most spectacular fiction of the 18th century. But this dramatic adventure had been only the beginning for John, whose long Navy career was pursued so relentlessly by tempests that he would go down in history as Foul-Weather Jack. Though George never knew his grandfather, the poet feels a kinship in his inheritance of storms. He had no rest at sea, he writes in an epistle to his half-sister Augusta, nor I on shore. Now, this account of the shipwreck, this particular bit, does read a bit like fiction. The whole of the book is not like that, but it was really exhaustively researched and compiled from John's own account and those of the other survivors. And the adventures that follow are really incredible. It's another almost 5 years before he finally makes it back to his sister's door in Soho Square, covered in mud. I was absolutely delighted, actually, that on researching that every one of my central cast of characters really left something meaningful behind in the documentary evidence, whether that was in personal correspondence. There were some amazing love letters that were just my absolute favourite find, in employment records, account books, household inventories, poetry they'd written, and also court cases. So obviously the most infamous would be that of William the Fifth Lord, or the Wicked Lord Byron, and his murder trial in 1765, but right down to, one of his brother, Richard Byron, later, who takes a Newcastle soap boiler to court because he suspects him of stealing his turnips. So some real high drama there, really worth the day I spent going to an archive, ordering up the documents and transcribing them. But aside from being able, trying to provide a panorama of what life must have been like for people in this amazing, radical time, I also just absolutely fell in love with the characters, the three main siblings, sometimes for their brilliance, but also, perhaps especially sometimes for their awfulness. But I will shut up about them now. I hope you enjoy your evening. If you want to catch up on any of my other videos about some of the other characters on YouTube, please do. Otherwise, I'm going over to Twitter now. I'm there on @EJBrand. If you have any questions about the book, the Byrons, how I went about my research, what on earth I'm planning on doing with my life, please head over there. Use the hashtag House of Byron and I'll be happy to chat. Also, send me your current selfies so I can see what you look like. And please, some of you, please do something Georgian, because otherwise I'll just feel totally ridiculous. Send me your favourite lines of Byronic poetry, whatever you like. Just please get involved. I'll probably be getting slowly more enthusiastic and oversharing the further I get down this bottle. This half of this bottle has gone. I didn't realise. Now, one thing I can do, because it's a virtual book launch and I can do what I like, is to leave you with a piece of music, which you can either listen to or not. Head over to Twitter now. It is the one that I've been using on the YouTube channel for the replacement virtual book tour throughout. It's not just a random piece of music. It was composed in around 1783 by Isaac Cooper for, or at least dedicated to, Miss Gordon of Guyt. So that is Catherine Gordon, later the poet's mother, but this was composed about 2 years before she was seduced by and then emotionally and financially ruined by the charming Jack Byron. There is another later song that was dedicated to the two of them and sort of Jack's dissipations, but I didn't want to include that one. I wanted to include the one celebrating Catherine Gordon's youthful, happy, boisterous, romping life. So do stick around and have a listen to that if you want to. Otherwise, with that, I will leave you. Thanks so much everyone for tuning in. Do head over to Twitter now, where I'll be over there answering any questions, having a chat, posting pictures. Most importantly, stay safe, stay inside. I hope that you have a wonderful evening, immersing yourself